We are live, gentlemen.
Hey, good morning. And welcome to the Muslim Street, coming from, let's say, all points around the world. We are not only the global South, we are in the global North. We've got it all together. And of course, Dr. Vibrant White is with us. And
I can't hear.
You can't hear?
Scurv?
Are you hearing me? All right. Well, you can hear me, right, Scurv?
Yes, loud and clear.
No, I don't hear him.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and get to Dr. White. We can hear you, Dr. White. So I'm going to let you be the subject of the show today because we're talking about Cointelpro, the counterintelligence programs that were launched by the U.S. as a tactic and as a direct response to the liberation movements that began early on in the 19th century, but also going back into the 18th century that were developing as a result of freedom and just getting out of chattel slavery, but then also moving more importantly out of the Reconstruction era, which saw Black people in the U.S. make significant gains, and they needed to start to unravel those. Or some in the white supremacist movement felt they needed to unravel those gains. And so we'll go to you now, Dr. White, and let you kind of pick it up from there and share with us what you have to share on Cointelpro.
Dr. White said he can't hear you. I don't know if he can hear me.
Yes, I can hear
There's
you.
got to be some adjustment on his side if he can't hear us. Can you hear me, Dr. White?
Yes.
Okay.
I just heard you.
Yes, I hear you.
But
yeah, I hear
can you
Dr.
hear Art?
No, I cannot.
You can't hear me. Okay. That must be a connection at Control Central there. I can.
Right.
I don't know what else I can do. My mic's so hot. So
Right.
why don't you're going to have to relay the question to Dr. White. So
Okay. Well, in the meantime, since we're so early on in the show, not to lose the flow, I'm going to ask Dr. White if he can log out and just log back in. Let me correct it.
Okay.
Because everything on this side is just right.
All right, you're listening to
and
the
welcome,
Muslim
Sister Queen
Street.
Diane.
And
Yes.
go ahead and hit that like button, as they say.
Right.
Hit that like button 2 times and call your friends and tell them to hit the like button too and join us on the Muslim Street, because we've got important information that we're going to be sharing constantly, and you need to be not only logged in, but letting the algorithms know that this is the place to be. So please do that, though, sincerely.
Okay, he's back.
Like
Let's get a sound check, Dr. White.
Hello?
Oh, Art, I want you to speak so he can hear you. If he
Okay.
can hear you.
Art here. How you doing?
I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to just briefly go back over what I just started with, and I was talking about Cointelpro, the counterintelligence programs that were instituted in the U.S. to respond to the growing liberation movements that African people and former colonized slaves and indigenous people were pursuing to free themselves from not only chattel slavery, but from the vestiges of economic slavery, and moving through Reconstruction, which saw significant gains among African Americans. And as a response to that, white supremacy felt in America that they needed to tamp down and subdue and even reverse as much as they could the gains that African Americans were making out of Reconstruction. So they instituted programs to counter. It was a counterintelligence program, because you can only counterintelligence if there's intelligence in the first place. And there was a hell of a lot of intelligence coming out of the African American community. So their counterintelligence program was designed to deconstruct what African American gains were coming out of the community. So right into the 1800s, into the early 1900s, and then even the development of organizations like the FBI and the rise of J. Edgar Hoover were as a direct result and a direct response to not crime across America, but African American development. And Brother Dr. Vibert White is here, and I'm gonna let you take it from there, brother, because you have some very sound explanations for what happened and what's occurring.
Yes, thank you, brother. And Brother Lance and Brother Malik in the background. Is so wonderful and good to be on this platform again. What Brother Art has told you is exact and right. Typically, when we look at the counterintelligence programs from their perspective, when I say their perspective, I'm looking at the larger white community, the white supremacists who are part of our government, and they titled their program as the counterintelligence program from 1956 to 1971. But we know, as Brother R stated, it started long before that, and it continued long after 1971. And of course, their job was to infiltrate, discredit, disrupt different narratives and organizations that they saw as being pervasive. We will see that this organization, this agency, the FBI, as run by J. Edgar Hoover, as Brother Art stated, was a control freak man. He really thought what he was doing was right. He saw himself as a patriot, but in reality, he was a supremacist. He was just a strange man who believed in manipulation and power. So under his rule, we see that he worked to undermine groups like the Communist Party, the anti-Vietnam War groups, civil rights groups, Black Power moves, from Martin Luther King to Malcolm X, Black Panthers. He disrupted the Students for Democratic Society. I was once an advisor to that group, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, American Indian Group, the Chicano Mexican American groups, Brown Berets, United Farm Workers, Young Lords, Puerto Rican Socialists. Name it, he tried to disrupt, because he saw these groups as being part of what he would call a fifth column. All right, a fifth column is a term that we utilize oftentimes in international mechanisms towards the United States. That is an organization within the United States with outside influence that will undermine and cause violence within the United States. For example, they saw the Malcolm X group as the fifth column. They see the Nation of Islam still as the fifth column. They saw the Black Panthers with Huey and Stokely and Fred Hampton as being members of the fifth column. So their job was to get rid of them. Now, what was the generalized reason, and what is taking place now? The question comes up: is there still a counterintelligence program? Yes, absolutely. Now, many people think the counterintelligence program is directed at people such as AOC, Congressman Omar, and different political leaders like that. It's not directed at those individuals, because even though they may sound radical or revolutionary to some, those individuals work within a narrative, all right, where they're giving certain parameters where they can say and do, and note, they don't go outside of those parameters. So therefore, they're really in control.
Well, Brother, can I ask just a question on the design and the rationale for this program? We got to go back to their premise.
Yes.
Their premise was really never based on any threat to the U.S. It wasn't that Black people were a threat. Reconstruction wasn't a threat to America. It could have been a device they could have used to enhance the development in this country. But white supremacy has never given African people, Black people, Native people a chance to be a part of a development that could have positively affected the world. So it wasn't that they had a specific agenda to counteract anything subversive. They were simply they were afraid of the development of African people. Is that correct?
I would agree. But along with that, remember the white man, the United States government, they play the long ball. All right. They don't play the short ball. What I mean by they don't think about what may take place today and tomorrow. They think about what would take place 10 and 20 years from, or 30 or 40 or 50 years from now.
Okay.
So therefore, yes, Reconstruction was not a direct threat. However, they were always concerned about someone coming up or a group coming up that will challenge them. Remember, when Reconstruction was around in the early 1860s, that was just basically 30 or 40 years removed from Nat Turner's rebellion. Think about that. That was just
slavery.
Yes, and that wasn't far removed from Gabriel Prosper and Denmark Vesey. All in that period, 1809 was 1802 was the Haitian Rebellion. So 1863, that wasn't that far away to them. All right. So they're looking at the 1900s, 1910s, 1920s. And what happened in the 1910s and 1920s? African Americans started to develop a new consciousness through groups like Noble Drew Ali, ultimately Marcus Garvey. You know, we saw what Hoover did to Marcus Garvey. All right. That ultimately.
Let's talk about that, because I think most people don't know what Hoover did to Marcus Garvey and why that inculcated into a furtherance of this white supremacist ideal. I would call it madness that followed.
Yeah. Well, just look at it. Marcus Garvey, the brilliant Jamaican who came to the United States by way of Panama and Costa Rica. All right, he created the largest and most successful Black movement of our time in the history of Black America. And you know, within a matter of years, he created an organization that had millions of people, over 40 million, I believe, throughout the world. They had a newspaper called the Negro World that was printed in Spanish, French, English, and Portuguese. It's interesting, Pan-Africanism right there. Then on top of that, he was saying this to Black people: you can liberate yourself from them. We're not just as good as white people, we're better. We don't need them. We can develop our own enterprises. We can develop our own structure and our own strength. Now, Hoover, who was a new leader under the Bureau, that's what it was called. It wasn't called the FBI. It was just called the Bureau, or the Federal Bureau. He said that we must stop this man because he's a threat. Now, how is he a threat? Remember,
that's my question: is why were African Americans considered to be threatening when they were starting organizations like the United Negro Improvement Association? I mean, this is about self-improvement, self-development that was very necessary for Black people at that time. Why was that so threatening?
They never wanted us to be independent. They always wanted us to be reliant on them. So while they keep on saying that, oh, we're just bothersome and we're locked into segregation, they feared an independent Black man and a woman who can create their own economy, create their own narrative, create their own ideology. that feared them, because if that happened, then that would shatter the whole concept of white supremacy and control. And that would shatter the whole concept of this white nationhood. So they had to get rid of him. So how did they do that? They infiltrated him. I mean, they infiltrated him several times.
They infiltrated the organizations that he had built, is what you...
Absolutely. Yeah. They put people in there to fight against him. They put people in there, even his ships. He had 3 ships. I can't remember all of them, all of their names, but he had 3 major ships, and he purchased them cash, and they all were bad. It was reported later on that these ships were sabotaged by members of his own organization.
So what you're saying, the businesses and the development that Marcus Garvey was talking about didn't even have a chance to develop in a very basic way. If his shipping line that was going back and forth to Ghana at that time, the Black Star Line, that line couldn't even launch 3 ships. Couldn't even get.
Right. Couldn't get it. Couldn't get it off. I mean, Marcus Garvey was a brilliant man in being able to galvanize people. But some things within the internal workings of his business enterprise, he wasn't that good. He believed that he had his hope in others who would do that. But many of them, just like now, wanted to be closer to the larger white community, and they sold him out. Then ultimately, check this out, right? As he is building, all right, and he's getting investors, well, they got upset with that, and they ultimately put him in jail and deported him for mail fraud for, I think, for $1.24, something crazy like that, to get him out of the country. But the point is, again,
well, his mail fraud has to be pointed out. What they considered mail fraud was just what people do every day on the internet. They solicit money and they solicit fundraising. The Democratic Party, the Republican Party, they all do the same thing right now, but they penalize him for fundraising through the U.S. mail. And that was what they said constituted mail fraud, and they used that as an excuse.
Absolutely. So going back to Marcus Garvey, the white man, the white America, they have always been afraid of an independent thought. I mean, check it out. Remember in 1920, he had his international event at Madison Square Garden, I believe, or in Manhattan. And he brought in over 20,000 people. And he stated, check what I said. He said, I am the provincial president of Africa. And when we get strong, when we hear of them lynching a black man in America, we will push the button and we'll lynch one in Africa. Yeah, that's some heavy stuff, because that's what every country does. That's why you don't see America, for the most part, no matter how much they hate Russia, they're not going to mistreat a Russian citizen. All right? Or Russia would do the same to them. England, the same way. France, the same thing. So he is putting himself and his country on par. That if you mistreat African Americans, don't think that we will not mistreat white Americans if they're in Africa.
So was there a military wing of the Marcus Garvey United Negro Improvement Association movement, or was it more a Christian-based or religious-based organization? Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a militant wing in many respects. So, of course, he was an Anglican. All right, he was an Anglican. Okay. However, he met a man by the name of Drus Ali, I believe, in England, who gave him a Quran. And he stated that if there's any religion that we're going to be part of, it would be a Muslim. But it was not a religious group. He saw his organization as an economic, militant, racial group. Whatever you wanted to be religiously, that's your business. All right? That wasn't his structure. even though groups such as the Rastafarians now claim that Marcus Garvey is a prophet of their lineage, and people look at Marcus Garvey as being divine, he was not part of that. He understood he didn't have to be part of that, because at that same time,
he was Jamaican.
He was Jamaican, but there were several other African American groups that were starting and developed that was religious based. Okay. All right. I mean, you had, again, Noble Drew Ali, the More Science Temple movement. That was religious based. You had the Black Hebrews of Harlem of that time. That was religious based. Then a couple of years later, you have Father Divine, which was religious based. You had Daddy Grace, which was religious based. So
but none of these groups were armed groups. They did not have guns and arms in their development as organizations. So how were they a threat? How were they a threat to anybody?
Well, when Marcus Garvey marched something like 5,000 or 6,000 people from Harlem to Lower Manhattan in that parade, and when he had his Black Star nurses in formation, when he had his black pilots in formation,
he had pilots and he had nurses and he had all of these people organized, and by the thousands. You said thousands of people.
Thousands of people.
That's organizational capability on steroids that was going on back in the 20s?
In the 1920s. Mm-hmm. All right. And just think about this. If you can organize men and women to be disciplined in that manner, you can also, in a switch of a snap of a finger, you can organize them to be aggressively militarily armed.
Why? Who says that? I mean, is that what are you saying that that's what white supremacy thought, or was that a fact? I mean, that was not his intent, though.
That's never was his intent.
Okay,
but if he had changed his perspectives, like, for example, later on you have Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad never believed in weapons. He had the FOI. However, if you would snap your finger, if he would have snapped his finger and said, "Listen, FOI, everybody tonight, go get a gun. We're going to move." They would have moved in precision, and it would have been done. That's the threat. You see, and that
would be a perceived threat in somebody's fantasy, but that obviously Elijah Muhammad and even Marcus Garvey knew and understood they were in a no-win situation to develop that. So, can we really say that people felt threatened by these people in that way from a military standpoint, or is that just an excuse to rationalize crackdown?
I would say that they really felt threatened because of the potential that it had. If they didn't feel threatened, they would have allowed it to exist, to continue. They didn't have to deport Marcus Garvey because of the low crime. They didn't have to do anything.
That justifies their actions. That justifies their backlash. That gives the U.S. the white supremacist movement justification if they were threatened. I would just submit that we might need to rethink what these movements were doing, because they were not threatening. There was no threat from. There's never been a threat from Elijah Muhammad's movement, which developed because of his understanding and the training that Marcus Garvey provided. And even in the Marcus Garvey movement, there was not a threat. The only threat was the development of Black people to do for themselves. And if that's a threat, then let's admit that that's the threat. It wasn't military. Where were Black people going to get guns? Where were Black people going to form an army?
I'll put it like this. Do you remember in 1958, you had the Robert Williams group?
Sure.
North Carolina.
Dear brother, right? Yes.
All right.
Monroe.
He didn't have many guns and he didn't kill nobody. All right. But remember, when he came out and said that he will defend his community, and he was turning the NAACP of his branch into a militant wing, what happened? FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, again, almost overnight, labeled him as the biggest threat to American security. The point is
Yeah,
that
but yeah, wait. No. Robert Williams, the Klan, backed by the local sheriff and the police department, were parading through a black town of Monroe, North Carolina, and they were doing it routinely as a show of force with hoods and the KKK, and they would shoot into the town. They were shooting at black people. So Robert Williams formed a defensive group that said, you will not ride through and just shoot us without any response. Now, we have to tell that part of the story.
Absolutely. And that part is very important. All what I'm saying is that the larger white community always feel threatened when they can find a black man or a black woman who can organize people, put them in a level of discipline, because they feel and they believe that these black people can respond aggressively against them at any time. So therefore, and that these black people are not afraid. That's the threat. You see, for example,
we got Second Amendment rights. Say everybody can. You're a citizen. You can have a gun.
Second Amendment.
How are you threatening?
At this time, at this time, remember, going back to the Civil War, the Union Army and the Confederate Army did not begin to arm blacks on both sides until near the end of the conflict. All right, because they both were arguing that they don't want blacks with guns. World War I, the same thing. I mean, they were reluctant to arm African American men. Ultimately, they had to, and they developed squadrons and groups for African Americans to fight. They didn't want that to happen. The white community have always been threatened. They've been threatened by black men who can organize people in a disciplined manner. Because again, if you can organize them in a disciplined manner, they can move out aggressively against you. I'll give you a case in point. Hold on, brother. For example, right now you have a Black Hebrew group. I don't know the name of it. I can't think of it. And they dressed in, I think, in blue or purple. And purple. They're all over the country. They're marching, making noise, and so forth. Now, you haven't heard not one larger white community, one leader, speak of them with interest. You know why? Because they're not a threat. They're not very well organized. They're just a bunch of guys with a bunch of noise marching up and down the street, acting like they're intimidating someone. So for the most part, they're not threatening. They'll let you march and they'll let you make a whole bunch of noise. However, on the other side, you have a group under Louis Farrakhan where those guys don't function like that. All right? They don't even know where they are half the time. But when they come out quietly in formation and they're ready to deal. That is more of a threat than the guys in purple. They are concerned and they are trying, and the counterintelligence program, remember, was going at individuals who can organize. Who were they going after? Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, and Elijah Muhammad. 4 men who were excellent at organizing and creating discipline among their ranks.
Okay, so you're saying organizing is the threat then. It's not that they are going to arm themselves. It's not the threat of armed rebellion. It's the threat of organization. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, organization, because if you use the organization, then you arm the people. They can do anything. For example, black people.
But that's not a natural follow. It's not natural to follow that people are going to be organized and then they're going to arm.
I mean, right now you have a bunch of black people who are armed. And they're saying that if something happens, they're going to go out and do this and that. You think the white man care about these people? Threatened by them? Because most of them are not armed. They end up shooting each other. They only have enough bullets that last for a couple of hours. and they're done. However, if you have an
Right.
organization,
Exactly.
so if you have an organization like the Nation of Islam, or and that can organize, then also say, listen, this time we're going to change our policy from being unarmed to armed. That is a threat because they will move out with precision. That
Well,
means,
but I think we have to be careful, brother, because what we're essentially saying is that the Hebrew organization, the Nation of Islam, are a legitimate threat in somebody's mind because of a supposition that they
said the
can
Nation
jump
of
from where
Islam,
they are now
not
to
the
being
Hebrews.
armed military groups. That's not even a desire of either of these
I'm not
groups. And I
saying that
don't
it's a
want the
desire,
Muslim
but it's a
street.
potential. I'm not saying that it's a desire or not. I'm saying hypothetically, it could be a potential threat. Not that it is in that manner. But if things break off, if you could organize men again to be disciplined, and then they can follow that discipline in armed combat, you have something. What
Okay.
made, what made the Panthers so strong? Not just because they had guns, but because they were able to be disciplined. There's a difference.
Yeah.
You see, and that's what I'm focusing on. So, what I really want to go
along those same lines, you could say that the Democratic Party could become armed and militant tomorrow and attack the Republican Party, and we would be back in a state of civil war in the country. That's a hypothetical, as you said. So,
yeah,
I mean, that is just as far-fetched as us saying that the Nation of Islam or the Hebrew group could move overnight and become a threat, a military threat to the U.S. It's really a reach, but I do understand that.
Well, you forgot something.
Organization.
You forgot something.
Organized Black people are going to be a threat in this country for other reasons. But
you forgot something that happened in 1988 at a conference in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 88 at a Savior's Day event.
Okay.
And a foreign leader spoke at this conference. His name, he spoke by closed circuit television. His name was Colonel Gaddafi.
Okay.
And Colonel Gaddafi stated that he is willing. This is open. He is willing to give African Americans arms for them to have a
to defend themselves
with the United States government. That was threatening. That was threatening to the people. They knew that the Nation of Islam did not believe in arms, but that very word, that segment, was very, very scary for them. And what happened after that? A couple of things. One, Minister Farrakhan later on tried to bring in, I think, $1 billion. They would not have let him accept it.
It was actually $5 billion, but go ahead.
No, that was $5 million.
$5 billion.
$5 billion. I know the first time.
The offer was to ultimately give the U.S. African Americans $5 billion for community development, not for arms, but to develop.
I know, but again, if you can get that type of money from a foreign country into an organization, even though it may be for housing and health and so forth, just think that they can possibly get some other stuff for some real.
Oh yeah, they do. We do 3 billion. We do 18 billion to Israel every year, and look at what they do with the 18 billion that they get. So I'm just saying, you can do a lot of nation building, but why is that not allowed for African Americans and Indigenous Americans? Why is it looked at as being something that's threatening?
We could go back to World War I. What happened? Not World War I, but the war between Ethiopia and Italy. Now, during that time, in the 1930s, what happened? They allowed Italians to go to Italy to fight the Ethiopians, but they did not allow blacks to go to Ethiopia to fight the Italians. if they went, they would be sentenced to jail time and fines as being rebellious against the country. The main point of that is that
they couldn't be sent. The U.S. would arrest them. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Okay.
America would arrest them. And the reason why is that they could not fathom the idea of black men with guns, black men shooting white people.
Absolutely.
That's the issue.
I just want to break to say that you're listening to the Muslim Street, and do hit the like button and let people know that you appreciate what you're hearing, and we can develop and move the algorithms, and everybody can do what they do on the internet. But go ahead, brother. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to just establish that
I want to bring it up a little bit farther. So now we're in 2026. Yes. And we still have this counterintelligence programs to undermine certain groups. Now, what groups are being undermined? Any political groups? Any politicians as such as we see now? No, not the ones that have an office, because most of them work within a narrative of the party. And they end up preaching the narrative of the party, not the narrative of the liberation of our people. Any churches? No. All right, because most of the churches are, again, aligned to one party or another, and they preach an ideology of, well, voting is the liberation. All right. How about black groups? All right. Not many out there either. However, they're going after individuals as myself. You know, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say we probably should interject the premise of the thinking in the background of J. Edgar Hoover, who was kind of psychotic as well. He said that he was trying to prevent the rise of a black messiah. Right. He is put it into these are his words. Now, he said this a number of times. This was the premise of his effort to destroy organization and leadership in particularly the African American community, because he had some dream or some nightmare or vision that there was going to be a black messiah who would rise, and that would cause some serious havoc. So I guess he's saying you, Dr. Vibert White, are potentially a black messiah. So
I would say that, remember, Messiah in that terms is one who can unify the people and galvanize the people. All right, towards a certain. Right, absolutely. Yeah. You said it. You said it.
Yes.
and it's so like, and also I put in my book about this. They are afraid of a black messiah, and they're afraid of someone who can reach the narrative. Now I'm going to tell you what has happened to me the last few weeks, Brother Art. All right. In the last 4 weeks, my organization, I'm running, we have been attacked tremendously. The first attack was that we had a major contract with a black university in Daytona Beach. And we signed the contract. We was going to work with them. One day before we were going to begin this contract, it was rescinded. Unknown. Everything that we did on our part was strong, but it was taken out. I said, okay. The second thing, in the same week, as I was speaking to a large group, Zionists, as well as some racists, were outside picketing, and they was also having flyers saying Dr. White is an anti-Semite. Why? Because I argued that Netanyahu is a war criminal. He should be arrested. They said that I was a communist. Why? Because I believe in universal health care. Third, they said that I was a black militant Muslim extremist. Why? Because I focus on the fact that that we should have reparations with no questions. Fourth, they said I was a misogynist. Why? Because I'm a Muslim and I follow the policies and the programs of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him. And they title him as a misogynist. So within that time period, they attacked us by our character. They attacked our character to frighten people from us. They attacked our money so that we cannot move and we get disinvited from groups. And then they attacked us by our thoughts. Now, the last thing that happened was just yesterday. I am the only political candidate in this country who was arrested in this manner. I was driving from my subdivision. As soon as I got out of my subdivision, 2 cruisers were waiting for me. They followed me for about 400 yards, put the lights on me. They came to the car. Let's see your license plate. I didn't argue with them. I said, okay, let me see your license. I said, okay, fine. They saw, you Dr. White? I said, yeah. Well, it doesn't seem like, it seems like you have a suspension on your license. I said, I do? For what? I never received anything. All right, they succumbed to that. Then they said, oh, you have no insurance. I said, here's my car. We have insurance. We always have insurance. That is not a problem. So they're skirting it around, trying to find something. All right. Ultimately, they arrest me. If you go to my mugging picture, you won't see what they arrested me for. They're still looking for something. Now, as I stated, with the counterintelligence program, what they do is that, again, they attack your character, attack your money, and they will try to bring you into court on trumped-up charges.
Well, we've had a number of people who have the same similar background. Mandami in New York comes to mind very quickly. And there are actually dozens of people of the Islamic faith, the Muslim faith, who have run for office and who are involved along the same lines. And I certainly don't condone or even recognize the authority to bother you for such reasons, and it's obviously a form of harassment. But you have to, at that point, realize that you're going to get this kind of response from those agents, and those agents are active in law enforcement across the country and the political party systems. And I know you're in the party system as well. So you're going to have that challenge, but the defenses for that are what? I mean, do you go to the Southern Poverty Law Center?
Hell no.
Do you go to attorneys from? I mean, how do you the ACLU? How do you shield yourself from that kind of activity?
The only people that can shield you are the people.
Okay.
All right, because when you run an everyday people's campaign, if I go into court to sue, that's going to use more resources that we really don't have to fight that. We need our resources to get the message to the people.
Yeah.
All right. That's where we have to focus on. So they want us to get locked. The game is to go to court. They'll wait you out. You spend your money. The case is heard now after the election. Then they may say, well, you were right. We apologize. But it's all over that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So the only ones you go to are the community members.
So we'd have to put you in a category with Ilhan Omar and the kinds of things that she's going through, and what she's going through there in Minnesota. She was sprayed the other day with a hypodermic needle with some unknown substance in her face and on her clothing by a person in the audience.
I would say mine is much more dangerous than hers, and I'll tell you why. All right. She is a little bit, she's high profile. She has some money to get good defense if she really wanted it. All right. Me, on the other hand, I'm coming up in this manner, and they flame the fires for someone to take a poke at myself or my family. I don't know who they are. I go to the regular stores like anybody else. Walmarts, Targets. I go there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I have to shop like
Yeah.
anyone else. So therefore, they can say, oh, that's Dr. White. He's the anti-Semite. He is the black militant. He is the one who don't like white people, all this type of thing. And you have some crazy fool who would try to take a shot at me. They will also utilize the police as a testing ground to see how our community will respond. You see? Now, how should our community respond? You don't have to respond by marching and all that stuff. Send us donations so we can fight. We have to continue our voice out there.
Sure. And I would say even in the case of Ilhan Omar, the proper community response should have been to put security around her, to build up a presence of, I don't care whether it was the people from the nation or the people from the Hebrews. There should be black men who are ready to stand in and defend Ilhan Omar, because if for no other reason, she's a black Muslim woman who is obviously being assaulted in public view by people who are obviously of the same mindset as those people who are threatening you.
When I looked at her meeting, I was shocked to see so few Somalis in the audience and so few around her.
Or so few Africans, so few black people. I mean, we have to get out of this idea, and this is what we do on the Muslim street. We pronounce that we are not going to continue the division among black people that causes this kind of neglect. We have to be one people, and that is what we're striving to be around the world. And that's where that's what we're advocating through Pan-Africanism and the efforts of the Muslim street, which you're listening to. And we want to remind you, you're listening to the Muslim street. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I just saw a comment. One of the sisters said that happens to us every day. And that's what makes our work very interesting, because our campaign is about everyday people. I mean, we had a case whereby my last campaign manager, his car was blown up. All right. We know who did it. Those types of things happens all the time, but we have to, as a community, protect our leaders, protect us. All right. Speak about what's taking place. All right. Help us to carry on, because this is going to be more and more aggressive. In the past few weeks, our work has gone viral all over the country. People like what we're saying because we have hit a chord. And they understand that even if I ride the donkey or the elephant, they know that my position is with the people. The party is nothing but a doggone vehicle for me to drive into Jerusalem.
Absolutely. So absolutely. That's an important point. Leadership is leadership. I don't care whether it is the leadership of people like Booker T. Washington, or the leadership of people like Muammar Gaddafi, or leadership like Vibert White or Ilhan Omar, for that matter. It is, if it is positively moving the needle for African people, black people in this country, indigenous people in this country, who are all the same to me, then that is an important leadership position for someone to take and for someone to stand in, and justification for their protection from all of us. We all should be about protecting you and people like Ilhan and the principles of even brothers that are marching as the Hebrews. They have the right to do that.
You know, I'm the only one in the state of Florida that aggressively attack Trump on this monkey thing with Obama. I didn't even like Obama that much. But I said, we as Black people, if we are from East Africa, West Africa, to the Caribbean, Central and South America, we have all been labeled at some time as being called a monkey, all right, as being a primate in that manner. And if you want to insult a Latino, call him macaca, which means monkey. Do you remember the movie Scarface?
Oh, hey,
Scarface?
No, I don't. That's another movie I never saw.
Okay, there's a scene where Tony Montana, he's Al Pacino, and he's arguing with this Colombian drug king. And the Colombian drug king is pissed off because he had contracted Tony to kill this diplomat who was going to speak at the UN. Tony didn't do it. So he got on the phone and said, "You didn't do it, Tony." And Tony said, "Well, I'll do it another time." And the guy says to Tony, "You little monkey, don't F with me. I will kill you, you little monkey." Monkey, remember that scene, Lance? Monkey is a term that we as people of the global South find insulting. When I was a little kid and my parents moved us back into the States, I went to a school, elementary school, and the kids called me monkey. And they said that they would chase me and to catch the little monkey to put a can on my tail and watch me run. One kid called me monkey in class and the teacher laughed. We take those things and even our leaders in the state of Florida was so weak to put this into perspective.
Well, let's put this into perspective. Monkeys have straight hair. If you part their fur, they are white skinned and they have very micro thin lips. You have never seen a monkey with lips. So let's step away from the nonsense about who is closer to the monkey species, than humans, who are people with lips and dark skin, and let's quit playing that game. And I wasn't offended by the Obama situation and that particular picture, but I understand the reaction and I understand the intent of Trump. But let's get back to Cointelpro and what's going on contemporarily with Cointelpro. What shape does Cointelpro take these days? I mean, we just had A-Trap Brown passed away a couple of weeks ago in Arizona in prison because they would not allow him to have a trial or even a reprieve from a sentence that was very controversial. But let's just, what is Cointelpro today? What is the counterintelligence program? What's the status of it now in 2026?
I can't remember the name of the brother. He's in St. Petersburg, and he also is based in St. Louis. The Uhuru movement, the Black Uhuru movement. I think that's what it is. And last year, a year and a half ago, they titled the brother who was over 75 years old as being complicit with undermining American elections on the behalf of Russians. They raided his headquarters in St. Petersburg and in St. Louis, confiscated all his equipment. And this brother has been part of the movement for a long time. Counterintelligence program at work, trying to destroy him. Why? Because he's preaching another narrative. Counterintelligence program works now with the Department of Justice. All right. They hire people like Al Sharpton to go into communities when African Americans have a disturbance, or it looks like there's going to be a disturbance. And he basically tells them what to think, what to do, and how to function. It undermines the organic uprising of a people. All right, you have that taking place as well. You
So
have
so they hijack these
hijack. That's the
legitimate
word.
movements and try to take them in a different direction, maybe even to get them to break the law so that they can get people arrested for more legitimate reasons.
To get them arrested because they have the guts to speak a different narrative, and they have the potential to change the trajectory of the African American movement. That's
Sounds
why.
like a lot of work that these people have put in um, to control the movement of African Americans and the abilities, progress of African Americans. But it seems to be more about control and domination and the economics that entails, because you can fund all of these organizations like ICE. I mean, ICE is a good example of an organization that's really funded to suppress people of color, and ultimately a design that could be used against African American people in this country, the only people that can't legitimately be deported. We're the only people that you can't deport. We're undeportable.
Yes.
But you want to still form this paramilitary operation. Is that part of what Cointelpro, or could that be considered part of what modern Cointelpro activity is?
Yes, absolutely. To undermine, because remember, the counterintelligence program aligns with the Department of Justice, aligns with the Department of Defense, and their objective is to keep one thing in power: white supremacy and white control and white domination. That's what
So
it's
it's a
all
police
about.
state.
Hmm?
It's a police state.
It is a police state.
You're
And that's where
describing.
in fact, about it, to be honest with you, Brother Arthur, we should come to the agreement now that right now the United States is a police state, more so than any other time in its history. I mean, this period now makes McCarthyism of the 1950s look small and weak. We live in a time right now, if someone doesn't like what we say, we would not just lose our ability to function, but they would go after your family, they would go after your friends, and they would destroy you inside and out. That's where we are now. No bones about it. You see? And they just don't have to shoot you. They have so many ways to get rid of you. I mean, right now there are, literally scores of great Black leaders in this country and great Black minority leaders that are just disappearing. They're picking you up in the middle of the night. They put you in a jail. Next thing you know, you're halfway across the country, someplace else, until they get you out of the country. That's what's taking place right now.
Well, once again, we have to realize that that's not anything new. That's what Black people have been going through in this country for the last 250, 400 years nearly. And we have to realize that because that has not changed for African American people, it is a threat to every person that considers themselves to be a U.S. citizen, an American, or whatever they want to call themselves. Because surely, as Angela Davis said, if they come for me in the morning, they'll be back for you in the afternoon. And there's Omali Yeshita and your hero organization on the screen. I'm sure Malik added that and put it up there.
Yes.
Counterintelligence program at work still today, trying to identify and define and then undermine Black people like this brother here. So what we have to do is be on guard. We have to really begin to reemerge as the organizational powerhouses that we are from the time of Marcus Garvey through Elijah Muhammad, through Dr. King and Malcolm X and the Black Panthers, and understand that we will not allow people to suppress us and allow people to deny us the freedom that we fought for and earned and have a right to in this country, even under the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, but going back, yeah, absolutely. But people like Brother O'Malley, we have to get to the point of protecting these fellas. I mean, while this was going on, his trial, the raiding of his establishment, the establishment leadership, and not many in the Black revolutionary leadership or the minority leadership said a mumbling word in this brother's defense. They act like, and he has been around for over 60 years doing his thing, and he's been very, very successful at it. So it comes to the point now is that we have to protect these brothers and sisters while they are with us. How do you protect them again? All right, speak about what they're doing. Give them donations. Go to their activities. Support them. We have a history as a race of people. We support people after they're dead or in jail. Then we start talking about, that was a strong brother and sister. We need to get them out because they're being persecuted in jail. When they get you in jail, it's over.
Yeah. Well, again, it's about organization. It's about doing that early. It's about doing that in a way that is certainly defensive, taking a defensive posture, but going beyond that and taking an aggressive posture to make sure that our people are not treated in any different way than anyone else in this country is treated. And that if you got to fall back on the rights of the preamble of the Constitution, the First Amendment, Second, Third, Fourth, Fifth, then do so, and do so with honor and do so with integrity and vigilance. Also understand that Pan-Africanism is the wave of the future. It is the way African people have to move because we have to have that continental support, that continental energy of Africa. Africa needs to be united so that we have something to fall back on, just as assuredly as the French have France, and the Italians have Italy, and the Japanese have Japan, and the Chinese have China, and the Russians have Russia. African people need to have a homeland. We are the only homeless people on the planet because we have allowed the dissection and the scattering of our forces and thus our energy as African people. If we had Africa behind us, we wouldn't have probably 90% of the problems that we face in this country because they would not dare to confront Africans the way that they do. So I hear some music in the background. Is that you, Lance?
Brother Malik gave me the word. Let you wrap it down and let's get the music going and powerful show as usual.
All you have to do is let me know if I hear the music. I'm moving. So that's my cue from radio. So this has been the Muslim Street, and again, we want you, if you like what you hear, to hit that like button as we mentioned, and let a friend know, and ask them to tune in next week and check out some great topics and some great guests and some great people. And what we got some donuts over there, bro? Do they have donuts in Ghana?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they got some donuts with a lot of sugar.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Brother Arthur, Brother Lance, Brother Malik. Power to the people.
Baby, look out, cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out, cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Shout out to the trying to gentrify the genre. Tell them free my middle finger to your honor. In the days coming down the seconds on the timer. Goofy still trying to purchase that designer. About to buy, learn to grow my own food. Cause I don't like the look they give me in the Whole Foods. And when you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. But it ain't on me now, I'm limping cause my heavy. But ain't sweet, think we thin. My whole attitude on MC Ren. It's my neighborhood now, Bob, I bought that. 400 years, how you still ain't caught that? I take pack kill the stress to the head. I'm tryna do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes sir, I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they said. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look